Hello, everyone. Um, I woke up this morning and I just had a download of ideas and thoughts that the Lord was giving me, and it's stuff that the Lord has taught me about um, how the enemy uses control. And it's one of the first things that the Lord taught me about when He began to teach me spiritual warfare, and the Lord began to bring book after book after book on the Jezebel spirit, a whole bunch of different authors. And as soon as I'd finish one book, all of a sudden somebody else would show up and say, hey, I got a book you should read, or else I'd be out at somebody's, place and yeah, here's all my books, check it out. And I'd go through, and sure enough, there'd be another book about Jezebel spirit. And all of these books were teaching basically about control, and lots of characteristics of how the Jezebel spirit uses control and manipulation to hinder and stop the growth of a Christian and attack them in many ways. And so, and then along with that, the Lord sent me back to school. He wanted me to learn some secular teaching about, and again, a lot of it was about control, but about psychology, sociology, and human behavior, and all these kinds of things. I took a youth care worker course for a year, about a year and a half. It took me 2 years to finish it. And, that, in the secular world, in the secular teachings in psychology and sociology, they teach a lot about how people, they try and control each other. And, that's one of the things that I learned, one of the biggest things that I've learned about, I don't know how to explain it, but about how Satan works in everybody. Well, first of all, everybody in the planet, there's nobody, I don't think there's anybody exempt, that everybody on the planet seeks the easier path, or they seek to be comfortable. And you build homes to be comfortable. You build everything that you do. You're seeking after that comfort, that comfort zone. It's easier to choose things that are comfortable than choose things that are hard, more difficult to do, things that take you out of your comfort zone, for example. And I find that following the Lord takes you out of your comfort zone all the time. The enemy hates it. And so he tries to draw you into your comfort zone all the time. And it's really important to understand this. Now, one of the things that he taught me about a spectrum of control. And so if you have, let's say you have a line right here. And this line, I'll call it control. Okay? And this I'll say is a spectrum of control from one end to the other. Now, as people are going through their lives, they're trying to control others around them. They're trying to control their environment as best as they can so that they feel comfortable wherever they are. Whether it's sleeping at night, they set up their bedroom, they got curtains on the windows, they got stuff going on to make sure that they're in control and they're not feeling uncomfortable. They get up, in the morning, every room in their house is set up so they feel comfortable. You've got blinds in the windows so people can't look in, you've got, couches and chairs and, everything that they can to feel comfortable. And that's kind of how things go in life. And then when you get out into the world, when you get into crowds and stuff, some people can't handle crowds and stuff like that, so they avoid the crowds, or they find paths that take them away from the crowds, for example, stuff like that. And everybody's trying to control their daily lives. And it's really like every single person on the planet is trying to do. Now, as far as relationships go, or whatever, people trying to control their lives, and there's two types of control, and one is aggressive. Forgive my writing. One side is aggressive control, and the very far extreme on the aggressive side of the control spectrum is this: murder. I don't know if you can read that. So that says murder. So a person will try and control others so far to the extreme on this side. The very farthest extreme is murder. They'll murder that person in order to maintain control. Now on this side is passive. My board is really shaky. Okay, so this side's passive control. And the very far extreme on the passive side is suicide. You can read that. Okay? So, aggressive control is people yelling at you, you do this or else I'm going to beat the crap out of you. If you don't do this or else I'm going to do this to you. If you don't do what I want you, then, this person is trying to take authority over you. And that's a big key, authority. They're trying to take authority over you somehow or another. And on the passive side, passive control is when you just, if you're arguing with somebody and you try and hide information, that's a good example. You try and hide information, so you just stop talking. You don't tell this person anything, and you stop talking, and then this person starts freaking out because you're not saying anything. They can't get the information they want. How can they control you if you're quiet? Stuff like that. So those are passive types of control, and people will bounce back and forth from one to the other. Generally, the pattern is like two people will get into an argument, and they both start with aggressive control generally. They'll start knocking heads, power struggle going on. And finally, one will threaten the other enough that one generally becomes passive. Now this person just shuts up. Fine, if they don't want me, fine, then if that's what they're going to do, then I'm going to do this, and they won't know it. They start doing passive things to control. Or they might do passive-aggressive things to control, like spit in their cornflakes, or, puncture their tire, when stuff like that where it's not directly against the person, but it's a passive thing where the person can't stop them, and people do that. They bounce back and forth on this spectrum of control. And of course, the worst thing that they do is, fine, I'll finally, if I can't control them doing all of this other stuff, I'll finally just commit suicide, and that'll get them, that'll hurt them. The worst possible thing, it'll hurt them terribly. Now, the place that we want to be is right in the center. And this is where we're not being aggressive and we're not being passive. We're right in the middle where the truth is. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one shall come to the Father but through me. And this is where the truth is. This is Jesus. All right? And on this path, this is the narrow path. This is the wide path. And this is the narrow path. And we need to stay on that narrow path where we stay in truth. And when you stay in truth, when you're in truth, you need to be this. You need to be assertive. Ephesians 6 talks about being assertive. It talks about putting on the full armor of God in chapter 12. And I believe it's around 13 or 14, and it says that when you have done all to stand, stand firm. And this is what assertive means. When you've done all to stand in the truth, when people are trying to aggressively control you, right to the point of murder, right to the point of cutting your head off, you stand in the truth. Be assertive. When these people are controlling you passively, it's very difficult, because this is the worst thing. This is an Ahab spirit, by the way. Whoops. Forgive my writing. This is an Ahab spirit, being passive. And this is, well, I could say Jezebel, but really Jezebel is over all of this. The Jezebel spirit. This passive control includes things like gossiping, speaking behind people's backs, lying about others, controlling people passively by talking about you to your boss, for example. And then you go to the boss a week later or something, and he starts giving you crap for something you didn't do because somebody was manipulating. This is witchcraft. All right? Jezebel spirit. Underneath Jezebel spirit, there are spirits of control. There are spirits of mind control. Which is more on this side. There are spirits of witchcraft. By speaking, by gossiping and lying about others, you're doing witchcraft on them. And it's passive control. It's passive control. Because witchcraft can be as simple as gossiping and lying about somebody. And then, you go to that person that has just heard a lie about you, and then they're acting weird around you. You don't even know why. You haven't even done anything, and now they withhold themselves from you. They withhold affections, maybe. They withhold job promotions, maybe. They withhold, they just withhold conversation. They withhold themselves from you because they've heard a negative thing about you, and you don't even know why. You're just standing there like, what did I do? What's wrong? And then they just leave, or whatever. That's a witchcraft. It's a curse. Those people have cursed you by lying about you. And it's terrible. And God says, God hated Ahab for it. It was one of the things, it was an absolute abomination. It's one of the worst sins there is. And the Father just hated that. Jezebel uses all of this, though. That's why the spirit is so wicked. It uses mind control, uses witchcraft spirits. Ahab is on that side. It uses, what else? Lust spirits. Everything it can to manipulate is generally under Jezebel's kingdom. Now, the way to overcome is to stand in the truth. And when you stand in the truth, you come out from under control, and you're on this narrow path. now you are over here. You're not under here anymore. Jezebel has no control over you anymore. She'll try. That demon will try to put all of this stuff on you and try to control you aggressively and try to passively control you using witchcraft and lies and all kinds of things, you know. But when you have the truth of Jesus Christ, you are out from under that control. There's nothing they can do. This is so important. Satan up here, you know, in the Jezebel usurps authority. So Jezebel is trying to steal authority from you, trying to gain control over people. Satan, of course, is up here above, and he uses every spirit in the book. Every single demon on the planet that is under Satan's kingdom is being used to control everybody on the planet. He has deceived the whole world, the Bible says. And this is how he's doing it. He's using all of these kinds of spirits. Every negative emotion is a demon. Anger, rage, you know, jealousy, fear. I'll tell you right now, fear is the number one tool that's used to control people. Fear. The opposite of fear is faith. Faith in who? Faith in the truth. Faith in Jesus. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And when you stand firm in faith, you're going to be assertive. You're going to be assertive with the truth. People are going to try and control you somehow or another. They're going to come and try and get you to knuckle under, especially early on. When you first become a Christian and you start living in the truth, you know the truth now, you start changing your life, and you're coming out from under control. You're coming out from fear. You're coming out from control, mind control, witchcraft. You know, you're changing your life. You're not sinning anymore. These demons freak out, and they do everything that they can to draw you back into somewhere under control, even if it's just a little bit. They're doing everything they can to draw you back under control, and they use people to do it. First of all, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see your family members try and draw you back under control, trying to get you to drink again. Alcoholism, trying to get you to do drugs. Your friends will show up and try to draw you back in through doing drugs, smoking cigarettes. You know, let's go party, let's go find some girls. Girls will show up and try to draw you in to have sex with you. Keep you in fornication. All of these things are to draw you back under Satan's control. All of it. Now, you battle all of these outside external things. You battle them initially. At the same time, as you're battling the external things that are coming from other people, the demons in you are going to be doing exactly the same thing in your mind. They're going to be giving you thoughts, you know, temptations in your flesh. Your flesh will even be charged with the demons in you. Everybody has demons. Every single person on the planet has demons. If you get angry, you know, and it's not a righteous anger, it's demonic. The spirit of fear is not of the Lord. God has not given us a spirit of fear. And if you feel in fear, that spirit's in you. And you can feel it in your flesh when it charges in your flesh. Anxiety, that's a demon. You need deliverance. You know, you need deliverance of passive spirits like Ahab. You need deliverance of spirits of witchcraft and mind control and controller demons. Fear's a demon. Jezebel, of course. Murder's a demon. Suicide's a demon. All of these things are demons, every one of them. It's about being assertive. I'll tell you, when I learned this stuff, I was going to school, and I'd take a semester and then it would be summertime and I'd have to go back to work for about 3.5 months or something, and then go back for my next semester. So I went back to my old job, and they took me on. They took me back, no problem, for a summer employment, and it worked out great. I got to help them, and they needed the help, and I needed the work, and then I could go back on employment insurance so I could complete my schooling. But one time I went back, and they had hired somebody else after I had quit and gone back to school. They hired a network admin, and I was a network technician. So he was above me in authority, basically. But when I came back there, he would attack me. He was a East Indian guy, and he was a Hindu. And the spirits in him would attack me every single day, at least 10 times a day. They would call me fat. They would tell me that I was stupid. They would say that I didn't know how to do my job. All these kinds of things. When really this guy couldn't do any of it. He wasn't any good at all. He ended up getting fired at the end because he lied on his resume. and he had no training whatsoever. He just, he had head knowledge, but he couldn't even do his job. And he ended up getting fired. But every day, he would make fun of me, call me fat, call me stupid, call me all these kinds of things. And I would not one time did I ever allow him to do that. I challenged him every single time. He called me fat, I'd say, look, man, you need to stop calling me that. That's disrespectful, and I won't have it. And then an hour later, he'd do it again. I said, how many times do I have to tell you? Stop speaking about me like that. You need to stop. And I wouldn't let him get away with it once. And this went on for 3.5 months, every day. Twice I had to go to my boss. The first time was about halfway through, and the boss, give him heck about it, but he didn't stop. I would even go for walks with this guy every day, coffee times. We would go for a walk around out in the steel yard in the business that I worked at, and I would talk to him about God, and I would talk to him about this kind of stuff, and I was trying to help him. I wanted him to see that what he was doing was not good for him. Let alone wasn't good for me. I wanted him to see. And so there was part of him that respected me, and he was listening, but yet there was this other part, Jezebel and control, were trying to knock me down, trying to take authority over me, an ungodly authority over me, trying to knock me down and make me accept that I'm less of a person. And I flat out refuse. I know how this spirit works. I know how this all works now, and there's no way I'm going to do it. So I challenged him every single time for 3.5 months. Finally, in the end, I had to go back to my boss a second time, and I told him what was going on, and then my boss was not happy. He was going to get a reprimand now. But before that happened, I went and got him. I took him out back behind our building where we had picnic table set up for coffee times and stuff, and I took him out there and sat him down at a picnic table, and I talked to him for an hour and a half. And I'm like, listen, I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to get you to understand that what you're doing is it's not good for me, of course, but it's not good for you. It makes you look really bad, number one. Number two, you're trying to control me. I want you to be a better person. This causes problems for your life. When people see you doing this stuff and acting this way, they don't trust you, they feel the negativity from it, stuff like that. And finally, after all this time, it was like it was like the Lord lifted the veil off his eyes, and I saw him go. He just shook his head just like that, and he went, wow, I have to see that this is true. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, what I'm doing is wrong. I'm being terrible to you. And then he's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. And I'm like, it's okay. That's good. I'm glad you get it. Like, that's my whole purpose has been this whole time, so that you would understand and be a better person. And you'll be a better person because of it now. And he thanked me. And then we went back in, and then the rest of the time that I worked there, things were good. It was afterwards that, after I had gone back to school, that it came out that he had lied on his resume. So this is where he was controlled by fear. He was afraid that if anybody found out, that he was going to lose his job and all that stuff. So he was trying to knock down people to make himself look better. That's the control that he was in, trying to control his environment. And it was so bad, he was just nervous all the time, constantly under anxiety and fear. But I never came under that control because I remained in the truth, knowing who I am in Christ. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am not less than anyone. And I refuse to accept it. I stayed in the truth. And that's how people try and control. Now, at the same time, people that need deliverance have demons speaking these things in their mind. They implant these thoughts in their brain, trying to convince the person that those are their own thoughts. And then the demon turns around and condemns them, puts guilt on them and condemns them for the thoughts that the demon put in their mind. So the demon puts the thought, then turns around and condemns the person because the person thinks that the thought is their own when it's these demons. Witchcraft, control, fear demons, lust demons, perversion demons, whatever the demon is. Every negative emotion is a demon. Emotions are God-given, of course. But if it's real bad and it's negative, it's speaking in your mind, that's a demon. And you need deliverance. So this is so important to understand. And I hope this really sinks in for people, and I hope you get it. Because if you get this, if you understand this whole spectrum of control, you can stay out from under the control of Satan. You can stay out from under control when you learn about, understanding these spirits and all the other ones. Understanding their characters will help you recognize their strategies. So studying these demons and stuff is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. People in the church, they say, don't glorify the devil by learning about demons, blah, blah, blah. That's a lie. How are you going to know how these things are attacking you if you don't understand what they do, what their strategies are? You need to understand so that you can stay in the truth and you don't get deceived, you don't get manipulated. Because that's what they do. They constantly manipulate to deceive you. If they can get you out of truth and get a stronghold of a lie in you, they've got you under control. Are you going to live in faith or fear? It's almost always fear that gets you into a lie and gets you into this controlling situation. Then you'll feel it. You'll feel all of a sudden now you're oppressed. You'll feel the negativity on you when you're under control. But when you're living by faith, when you walk by faith and not by sight, and you're trusting the truth and what's in the Bible, you're trusting every word in this book, you're going to be under the truth, under the Lord, under His covering. He's our shield and our buckler. It's the covering of His Word that keeps us. You stay in the truth, this all lifts off. It has no control over you. It still tries to draw you in, but that's when you stand firm. If you understand this, get this, it'll change your life completely. You will overcome the demons. You will overcome them by saying, no, demon, I am what this book says I am. I am what the Lord says I am. I am what Jesus says I am. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm made in the image of the Most High God. And I come out of agreement with all of this and all of your crap, Satan. And by faith, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. All right. I pray you get this. God bless you all. Bye now.